everybody, it's Sophie and Marco dishing out on the movies, and today we are reviewing the new season of Fargo. And what we're going to do is review it episode by episode. And Marco has already reviewed episode 1. And what he did was he reviewed it with a letter grade because after each episode we are reviewing with the letter grade. And at the end of the series, we will review it with some kind of food, hopefully.
I gave it an F minus.
Okay, well, I have this whole thing. I was looking forward to watching it just because Marco said it took place in Kansas City. Although I was confused because Fargo has absolutely nothing to do with Kansas City because I am from Kansas City. I ought to know. And so I was happy about that, even though it was weird. But then I figured out it was because amongst the story about new immigrant groups coming in, first it's the Jewish people, then it's the Irish people, then Italians, and then we're in 1950 now, and it's the already established African Americans who are trying to move up in the world in crime, apparently, and control, and they are up against the Italians. And the only thing about Fargo that has anything to do with Kansas City is the fact that with all this stuff about immigrant groups and crime, is this nurse, this little tiny little nurse who's from Fargo, and she's a serial killer, and she just runs around and she likes to give people overdoses in the hospital and make them die.
What's her name? Say her name, Sophie.
Well, let me see. Her name.
Orietta Mayflower.
Good. She has such a weird name too. That does not sound like a Minnesota name at all.
Well, the Mayflower part is, in my opinion,
that's an Eastern name.
Well, in my opinion, that's a poor job at trying to have some sort of symbolic meaning. Oh, her last name is Mayflower, and so she represents America or something, like something stupid like that.
Oh, yeah, I never even thought about that, but it's totally not a Fargo kind of name. That would be a Swedish or Scandinavian type of name. And you would know if you knew anybody from that area. So anyway, the whole story is weird so far because it reminds me of The Devil in the White City. You have this World's Fair going on. You have Chicago burgeoning in size with all these people coming in to see the fair. And during that time, they have this serial killer named H.H. Holmes, who's running around killing women, and lots of them, and selling their skeletons to medical schools or whatever. So that's what this reminds me of. She is a serial killer. So another weird thing is every time a group comes in, they exchange the one group that's been, quote, ruling the city, they're there, and you have this new one. So like it's first it's the Jews, and then it's the Irish people, and they exchange a son, and it keeps going on. Then it's the Irish and the Italian, and they exchange sons. And then where we are in 1950, it's the African Americans and the Italian people, they exchange sons. I think that's so weird, and I am going to look that up because I don't know if it's just totally all made up that was done or not. It was strange. I didn't like it. I thought that was horrible. But anyway, then a part that Marco had a problem with, and I didn't like it either. I just thought it was extra and too much. They have this African American girl, and she is, her dad is a mortuary mortician person, and he's white, and her mother's African American. And so she goes to African American school because in 1950 schools were segregated. I looked it up, and I think it was 1954, the Supreme Court officially said segregation was wrong and people had to desegregate their schools. So this is before that. So anyway, every year of school, she's she has to read an essay to the class, and she talks about all these immigrant groups coming in and their fight for power, and he said some other things about it. But so that's kind of used to narrate the story. Well, I didn't like that either. I thought that was it's just too much. I think they could have done it differently. And she's really smart, and she may be part of the story, more of a part of the story than we realize. We've only seen 2 episodes, but she's been around in both of them, and maybe she's going to be significant to the story. So therefore, they have to introduce her some way. I think they could have done it differently, and it's just. And Marco gets upset too. He was upset because one bad thing is every time she reads an essay, they don't like it. So she has to go to the principal's office, and at one time, they show that she's going to get paddled. And he said, "Oh, they only paddle African American kids." Well, there weren't any.
No, it's like they're trying to show that school is like another type of system of slavery, where like, all the African American kids get paddled.
Okay, well
like they're slaves. Like
that's not totally true because
that was the imagery they were showing.
Well, that's another thing.
The system quote unquote systematic racism.
Okay, well, they paddled in Missouri schools, and I know they paddled across the country because I've seen it on Facebook, people talking about, and that sounds ignorant and stupid, but we moved from the Kansas suburbs to Lexington, Missouri. I was in middle school, and they were paddling boys that were really bad troublemakers, and they showed the paddle. For some reason, we got to see it, which was weird. And I thought it was despicable. We never had anything like that in Kansas. So I don't know. But they didn't just paddle African American children, they paddled white children too. Of course, the schools were desegregated again, but I'm telling you, there were African Americans in our school too. And the only people I saw getting paddled were white. So that's the way it was. And it was a horrible practice to be paddling anybody.
And I said, why are they making jokes about child abuse?
Because I think it was abusive for anybody. I don't care who it is. Paddling is horrible.
Abuse.
I don't like it. And they've talked about that. Other people talk about it. They don't like it either. So that's kind of another story. But anyway, so that was one thing I agreed with them. I just thought it was too much. They should have just knocked that part out and introduced her in another way. She was different because she was very curious. So she did a lot of work on her own. If she didn't get it at school, like she was teaching herself French. So that kind of comes up a little bit in the end of episode 2. But I won't say anything about that now. And let's see. So I think by the end of the first episode, the major Italian boss gets killed in the hospital by the nurse because he has to go to the hospital. He gets shot in the neck while they're at the intersection by some kid. These kids, they're playing with each other, but it's like throwing a baseball and it goes through a window, or a ball that goes out in the street. Well, the pellet shot got him in the neck, and the kids ran away because that was a mistake, and they were scared. Anyway, they think he's been shot, like with a gun kind of real thing, which I'm not saying pellets aren't bad, but they thought it was more serious than it was. Well, the nurse got him. Okay, I don't know if Marco said anything about that. So now we're on episode 2.
I just said I had nothing positive to say about the episode because it was all portrayed as a joke, as a comedy. Like, even when she kills that guy, it's portrayed as a comedic scene.
Well, I didn't think...
Where she drugs him and then he goes to sleep and he snores and then he dies. And it's like, oh, it's a joke, ha ha ha. And then the thing with him in the car.
Oh.
And he goes to the bathroom all over himself. And like, ha ha ha. And then like the scenes with like Chris Rock where you have this parody type of scene where all these different people from his gang like jump out of the alleyways like they're uh, I don't know, like they're superheroes, and it's like this comedy, and nothing's taken seriously, and nothing feels authentic. They don't even really talk like they're from the 50s, except for maybe that Nurse Mayflower, and then the mother of the annoying, arrogant, know-it-all narrator.
Yeah, that was another thing Marco had a problem with is the girl's attitude because
Yeah.
but like I said, she is at by this time in the episode where they are, it's 1950. They say that at the beginning, and she's 16, and she's a snotty 16-year-old. I mean, she's a girl.
That's not how they were portraying it.
Well, I thought it was
because they were having her narrate the episode, and
well,
they were.
that doesn't mean anything.
Yeah, it does, because she was saying all these racist, inflammatory things that she shouldn't have been allowed to say, and on the show, because it frankly it doesn't make the show look good. It makes the show look racist and anti-American and inflammatory.
No.
And the stuff that she's saying, like, it would have been fine if she was just saying that, like if they showed a video of her saying it in class, but they were having her narrate and say the things over as the events were happening. So it's like the creators of the show endorse all the stupid shit she's saying. And the stuff she's saying was complete bullshit. And all the stuff she said, it was terrible. And, she is a brat. And, but they were treating it like she's like a wise brat. Like she's like a courageous figure who knows more than everybody. And she's got all the knowledge and all the wisdom, more than any other character, and more than all these stupid gangsters. And in my opinion, there's not a single good character on the show too. And that's another thing, is who am I supposed to actually like on the show? Because I don't like a single person. Did you like a single person, Sophie?
Actually, I did like the Irish guy because I thought he was very.
No, I'm talking about episode 1.
Oh, okay. Well,
yeah.
Probably not in the first episode.
Yeah, I like the Irish guy, and that's it.
And we're part Irish too.
That doesn't have anything to do with
it. Doesn't have anything to do with it, but I just thought he presented himself as a more thoughtful and caring, but also smart enough to not get killed.
If you look up on IMDb, his last name, he has the same last name as the black guy from season 2 of Fargo. And so, in my opinion, it's basically showing that he's going to, the kid that's staying with him and he's taking care of, he's going to probably take that guy's last name. Or another thing is that I saw a picture of like episode 9 or 10, and it's him and the narrator, the arrogant know-it-all narrator, and they're in a scene together. So maybe him and her will get together, and their son will be the guy from season 2. But either way, it seems like this Irish guy is going to be the reason for the guy from season 2, which is it's fine, but it really still, it should not have been Fargo. It should have been a spin-off series, like the first season of.
Yeah, it could have been its own series, because it would be really good. I think if they just made it, instead of pretending like it's about Fargo. It's not about Fargo. At least I haven't seen any evidence of that, except for the nurse, and she's not from Fargo. I mean, she's done. She's there in Kansas City now.
And I don't like all this. The different seasons have different stories. That's another thing I don't like.
I don't know.
I think that's stupid. I think that it would have been much better if we were still dealing with the characters from season 1.
Yeah, and people liked some of those characters.
Yeah.
And, okay, well, let me just say, I didn't like the implication that every new immigrant group who comes into town's full of bad people. Really? Where have we heard that before? And it's totally unfair to all the good people who are hardworking and try to move up in the world.
Yeah, basically.
But I don't know how they would do that. But.
Basically, the implication is if you're an immigrant, you're going to become a gang member.
And that's asinine, okay? All right, and the switch up of the sons is sad. And like I said, I want to fact check that because that may just be a whole made up thing, but I want to know. And then the music, what the hell? Why is the music being played so low? There's lots of good music in Kansas City, jazz, bluegrass, and it is as important to people who live there as it is to the people in Fargo. And they play tons of music, different genres, types of music. It was really good. I really liked that because I thought that they were very. It was interesting, and I enjoyed that part. And they not in this one. They play it so low. I could hear a little bit of it, and I could tell what it was, but why is it so low? It's like maybe people complained and they thought that they shouldn't have that. I don't know. I liked that part. Okay, now should we do episode 2 then? Since you haven't done episode 2, right?
Yeah.
Okay, well, that episode 2 really gets into the shift of power, or hopefully the power is shifting, between the Italians and the African Americans. And I've never seen Chris Rock play a serious character. He makes me laugh, and did a few times during the show, even though they really weren't that big of laughs. It was just, it was almost hard for me not to take him seriously because I've never seen him play that kind, and I don't know if he really played it that well. I thought the Senator Doctor, he seemed more like the boss.
Dr. Senator?
I don't know what he
Whatever his
is.
name
He's Senator Doctor Senator. It's just weird, but it's very unique, right? And he seemed to be more of the leader, and Chris Rock just, he sat around. It seemed most of the time you would see him either standing or sitting, and he has this trying to look serious look on his face, and it didn't seem genuine. I'm sorry, but it didn't. He just is a funny person. And, I guess Fargo is supposed to be considered kind of a funny show, although serious
Not
with
completely.
the killing. But
It's
not.
supposed to be a serious show. I mean, if you look at seasons 1 and 2, they start off and they have some very serious scenes. And, it's not just comedy all the time, like their comedy shows.
Okay, and then there's the nurse. The nurse has already, I believe, offed the mob boss by killing him with she put some kind of drug into the IV, and she stole his ring and got away with it. And then the only person to notice this was his wife, the mob boss's wife. She noticed it, his ring. I mean, this is something important to them. Them meaning this guy, was the special ring he had. And I don't know anything about it, but it was special to him. His wife knows that, and she complains about it, but she assumes that her son or any of the other, underlings, I'll just say it like that, sorry, that they must have taken it. So then there's that. So she's a serial killer who takes trophies, and the trophy was the ring. And so they don't even know, and the guys, the son, they deny it. Oh, what? We didn't do anything. But nobody bothers to look into that. They're so hung up on other crap with power shifts and stuff. It's just queer. So the hospital administrator, she starts doing it again with somebody else, just some character in the show. Sorry, and she gets caught. And he tries to threaten her, and she's like, yeah, right, F you. And they're going to let her, I mean, she's a murderer. They know she could because he says they've been watching her for a long time. So he threatens her, but it's really weak. Weak need attempt to get rid of her. And they're even saying, well, I'll give you a recommendation so you can work at some other hospital and kill some other people there. I mean, really?
So she's basically like Nurse Ratched.
I guess so. I don't know, but I thought that was bizarre. And so anyway, you go ahead if you want to say about what other things happened, and then we'll get to the...
Season 2 wasn't very... I mean, not Season 2. Season 2 was really good. Episode 2 was not really much of an improvement. I liked some scenes. I thought it was overall more enjoyable because they weren't letting that narrator girl narrate this episode. And so I thought, oh, okay, that's good, because I don't want to hear any more of that inflammatory bullshit she's saying. And so, I mean, I'm fine if there's like a character like that, even though I hate those types of characters, because I'm sick of seeing that over and over again, where there's like a kid character, and they're the observer, and they have a different perspective, and they're they're looking at everything that goes on, and they have wisdom, and I'm sick of seeing that cliche character, no matter what color she is. And so I'm glad that she wasn't narrating, and that actually improved the episode slightly. So it took it from an F minus to an F, and then well, it's like this episode was just comedy. Nothing was serious, and then you have the two characters who break out of prison, and they're gonna go commit more crime and be bank robbers, and like I hated those characters, and then there's all this comedy. Oh yeah, and then what about the Mario guy? There's this new Italian stereotype, this racist Italian stereotype.
And he's bad.
Where he's basically looks like a Super Mario brother, and he has this big mustache, and he's really fat, and he has this little Mario cap on his head, and he goes around whispering things like, we were in Italy, and Italy fought a war, and it was killing, and I'm a really evil killer, and and it's just pathetic, and it's just comical, and it's just not convincing at all, and he's not scary, he's not a good character at all, and so his character was trash, and so that took it back down to an F minus, and then you have the Irish guy, which I thought that scene was okay, and I'm looking forward to seeing him.
Yeah.
Because I feel like he's going to be one of the only good characters, because he's one of the only, quote, good characters. And then you have that other guy who hasn't even shown up yet. There's this one guy, and he hasn't even shown up on the show yet. And he's going to play a big part, and I can't wait to see him. And so it just feels like this was a terrible start to a season, no matter what show it is. I mean, it could still be good, but it just wasn't very good this episode once again. And what else did I like? I liked Nurse Mayflower's performance, even though I think her character's trash, and I don't think that it really fits at all with the show. I mean, I just think that overall it's sort of like a huge failure. It's exactly like if they had this idea, they should have just made this into a different show.
Yeah, she really sticks out. She would really stick out in Kansas City too,
Yeah,
especially at that time. The Italian guy, the son, he even says, "You have a weird accent," and she says, "Well, I'm from Fargo. I can't imitate the accent." So anyway, well, I guess I could if I tried really hard, but still,
So
it would stick out.
I would rate this episode like an F plus. What would you rate this episode?
Okay,
Sophie?
well, I gave the first episode a C because that part about the school part, I thought it was unnecessary and could have been done differently. And then I didn't like the implication that every immigrant group that comes into Kansas City or anywhere else is bad. And I know they didn't mean to do that, but that's what it looks like. And
Yeah.
why would they do that at this time? Really, why?
Yeah, totally racist.
Well, there's more to
Totally-
it than that.
Totally
What we've been going through the
stereotypical,
last
totally
4
cliche,
years.
totally
Well, that's what it looks
antithetical.
like. I mean, they do understand that when they do certain things, it might look a different way to people than what they intend. Okay, well, the second one, I gave it a D. Now, why I did this is for one big reason. It was the lighting. And the lighting in almost, probably every indoor scene was so bad you could hardly
Yeah.
see. And what is that implication of that? They don't have electricity in Kansas City because it's a quote cow town. Do you see it? Well, yeah, they were in the slaughterhouse. That area is a lot bigger. I mean, it looked like a little tiny area the size of a closet, but a slaughterhouse area. Even out when you go west of Kansas City, you see all the stockyards. There are acres of them.
So I guess they're racist against Kansas Cityans too.
Well, they just, because you know what? They're probably not even filming it there. I don't know
Oh
if they.
yeah, they're probably filming in Canada or somewhere else.
I mean, I can't imagine they could get
Maybe
away
they're
with that. We're
maybe they're
nothing
filming
like
it in Russia or something.
we're nothing like Canada,
That's
and
the
we
type
don't
of
get
stuff they do.
and we don't get as much snow
And
as
I'm
either
sick of that.
Fargo or Canada.
I'm sick of all these movies and shows saying, "Oh, this movie takes place in Ohio," and then they film it in fucking Florida.
Fargo.
They film it in fucking Florida, and it's just embarrassing. And it's getting to the point of where I'm really getting sick of that. That's probably becoming one of my biggest pet peeves, because I looked up in seasons 1 and 2 they were shot in Canada, and it's like, oh great, another show shot in Canada, even though it takes place in Fargo. What does that have to do with Canada?
Well, anyway,
Nothing.
the problem with a lack of good lighting was you can't see what's going on.
Yeah.
And maybe it doesn't matter in some of the scenes because you can kind of assume, which is a really bad thing to do. You never assume anything for real. And was the almost at the end of the episode when the nurse is making pie for what? Thanksgiving? Yeah. And I'm like, who's she making that pie for? Who did she talk about pie with?
The Help.
Yeah, but the 16-year-old girl, well, she said something stupid
Yeah.
to her, and the nurse, she kind of turns everybody off because she says weird stuff. She's
Yeah.
different. She weirds people out. I can't help it. They say that you can tell,
That was a
and it
stupid
would be
joke.
like that. It would be like when she says stuff like that. I know, and so
And so she basically made this pie because she asked the little girl to come over and
16-year-old girl,
and-
16.
yeah, she's
okay.
still a little girl.
Well,
And so
she said, "Why don't you come over and help clean my place?" And because she speaks French, she taught herself.
and then of course the narrator girl has to say some cringy woke line where she says, "What are we to you? Just the Help?"
Well, which if it had been any other 16-year-old girl, they would have been offended too.
Yeah.
Not because of in a racist view maybe, but because they're a 16-year-old girl, they don't want to go over there and clean her house.
Well,
So,
there
you
was
know.
money in it.
Yeah, but that
There's a
doesn't
dollar.
matter. 16-year-old girls, really? Come on. So anyway,
that you could tell that this Fargo woman was very, she's like an alien. So
yeah. Well, she's very naive about the area
yeah.
and the people who live there. That's for sure.
So what were you saying about the pie?
Well, the thing is, I've made apple pie a million times, and I saw her put some kind of syrup in, and I'm like, that's really weird. Is that like maple syrup or something else? Because nowadays people do all kinds of things with food to change it up, to make it taste different, or just for fun. And even a few years ago, they called it, what is it they called when they like threw it up in the air and let it fall all over the table? Well, anyway, but that was 1950, and so they're not going to be putting weird stuff in the pies and everything else because they're going to be doing traditional things because that's vintage times, that's the past. And so I'm looking at the syrup bottle and what the hell is that syrup? I had to watch that scene 4 times to be able to see the bottle. And I don't get that because I have seen parts of the other seasons because somebody else in the house watches that, but I mainly just listen to it. And I've looked up there and all their indoor scenes were brightly lit, fully lit, so you could see everybody's faces. You could even see a syrup bottle and what it said the first time without having to watch it 4 times. So I gave it a D because I think if they want you to seriously watch the show, why can't they do the lighting? I've said that I'm a reseller and I take pictures of everything I do. We have crappy lighting. So I've had to use a little book light to try to make it brighter. Okay, well, I don't have millions of dollars or a lot of money to buy good lighting, but they have the money to buy good lighting. So why can't they do it for their own damn show? So that made me mad. So I gave it a D.
Well, there was a scene where the lighting was particularly bad, and I actually took a picture of it and then made it for a picture for this video because they're indoors and they have like the shingles or whatever, or no, the shades. They're like almost closed, kinda. Well, there are these rays of light coming in, and they look so intense that it looks like the people in the room are all taking a shower together because the
Was that prison? The
no,
girls getting out of
you
prison?
couldn't even see the girls whatever they were doing. I couldn't even see that scene. But no, I'm talking about the scene where the Italian mafia are in the office talking. Uh, and you have Mario in the background. He's saying some stupid Italian racist cliches, and but you have these, and I'm not saying that like there aren't stereotypical Italians out there, but I just find it funny how I get called racist for saying that I don't like a show that happens to have a black person in it, but then the show is racist itself, and far more racist than anything I said, because they're just everyone's a stereotype, everything's a comedy. I mean, it's like a 70s movie. It's like Dolomite.
Yeah.
And but the rays of, so basically what they do is they put, this is a set. This office was probably a set. And so they put lighting on the outside of the windows to make it look like it's natural sunlight coming in. Well, the light was so intense, but it was so filtered through the different shades that it looked like shower water watering over all the different people in the room. And I thought that's some shitty lighting. That's some of the worst lighting I've ever seen in history. Next to like fucking Iron Fist. Iron Fist was trash too. The lighting in that. They weren't doing a good job at lighting people on the show. But other than that, I mean.
Okay, well, I just want to say for a spoiler alert,
Okay.
I don't know if you're doing that. The syrup was Ipecac. And if anybody knows what Ipecac is for, that's for making you throw up. Okay? So she put a whole, maybe 3 tablespoons, or maybe a quarter of a cup, which is probably 3 tablespoons, of syrup into the pie. And guess what? She took it across the street as a gift. And guess who she gave it to? The little girl and her family.
But then these police charged into the narrator's house.
It could be that it'll get destroyed or something.
Well, I think it's a big fake out. Like,
they saw the nurse take the pie there too.
Yeah, they saw that. Well, I thought probably the best moment of the episode was actually the nurse when she came over to the narrator and she said that she wants her to be her special project.
Yeah, she said that too. That really irritated the girl because it is racist. Because for another thing she did.
We don't know what that means.
No, I don't know what that means. I'm talking about the other thing that was said after that.
Oh, I'm not talking about that.
Well, the girl, like I said, she speaks French pretty well. She taught herself that on her own. And the girl, the reason why I know that is because the nurse knows how to speak French too. She happened to say it, and then the girl responded, and she's like, "Oh wow, you speak French? They teach that at the colored school or the Negro school?" And she said, "No, I taught myself." She said, "Ooh," and then that's when all that other stuff came on.
But saying that she wants her to be her special project was a very ominous thing to say.
Yeah, it was, especially from a serial killer's lips.
And I think if this episode was well done, then that would have been a really great moment. And so it's unfortunate the rest of the episode was so trash that one really good line and that really good moment wasn't good.
And now, just
Good.
an FYI, that part where they talk about her learning how to teaching herself how to speak French, that was done outside, so you could actually see the people talking
Yeah.
in full view because it was on her porch. And the thing when the scene where she made the pie, that was in supposedly a well lit kitchen, but this was a vintage Epicac bottle, and the label, the top of it, the name, it said syrup of. I'm like, what does that say? What does that say? Because that's what I think that's what it says today.
Well, what
Syrup
I
of
did was
Epicac.
I went to the poster. There's a poster for season 4. It has all these different little images taken out of context and with different, just generic looking people. Well, on the poster, there's a bottle of poison, and it looks like the bottle she used. And so I just said, "Oh, okay, it's poison."
This is a
It's
huge
something
bottle.
bad. Yeah.
So you got to wonder, and there it was almost down to a fourth of a bottle. So I mean, what else? Where else has she been using the Epicac? Because people, when you're a new parent, they talk about Epicac. At least they did, and having some on hand. And the bottles are usually really small, and you never use it. Never.
Well,
I only know if somebody had that
we've
done to
never
them
used it.
because they took an overdose of Tylenol.
We've never used it though.
No, we've never used Epicac.
But
I don't think I could.
In a way, I think that these 2 episodes are kind of like an Epicac.
Well, whatever. That freaked me out.
You know the food rating? The food rating for the season, you could say it's Epicac.
Well, I don't want to say that, but I
So
just
far. So far.
she's a serial killer,
Yeah.
and if she's doing something and she's putting something in a food, she's already been injecting poison or whatever, probably just a regular drug, but too much of a regular drug that would
So,
make you overdose.
What are you?
You'd have to be suspicious, so you want to see what she's putting into the effing pie.
Well,
so
what are you looking forward to? I'm looking forward
I
to
don't know.
the Irish guy. I'm really looking forward to him actually. I'm looking forward to the police guy.
Well, I want to know why they're at the mortician store on Thanksgiving.
The guy from Once Upon a Time in Hollywood. I'm looking forward to him a lot. I'm looking forward to maybe seeing Chris Rock's character get killed, and then Dr. Senator takes over, so that we can have like a better actor
I think
in
it'll be
charge
just
of
the
the gang.
opposite.
Because, well, no, I looked and the Dr. Senator's gonna be like in the final episode
Oh,
or near there, so it's possible, and I would really like that. I would think that would be a good idea.
I
Because
don't know.
Chris Rock has just been terrible, and I'm also looking forward to what Nurse Mayflower went when she meant she wants her to be her special project.
Well, I want to know if they ever really eat the pie because, like
Probably
we said,
They probably
the
won't.
cops were watching. Well, we don't know who it is at first. It's a plain car. There's no cop symbol on it.
Yeah, but they play this music and they do this slow pan around the car. You can tell that it's someone suspicious.
Well, I thought it was the Italian people
Yeah,
or one of the gangs. I mean, that's because they're these big 40s cars, and they could be anybody. They're huge, and we see her walk across the street, put the pie on the doorstep, and I think she must knock because the mortician opens the door, but she's long gone. And then you keep seeing this car parked nearby. Sorry. And then after she's gone away, the mortician takes the pie, goes into the house. They're having Thanksgiving dinner. This is for their Thanksgiving dinner. And he's a mortician, so everybody knows who he is. So, he might really think it's a legitimate thing to have. Somebody was being nice and giving him this gift. And then right away, we see all these people spilling out of the car, and it's cops. It's plainclothes, And then it's all these people in uniform, and they're marching up the stairway to the mortician's house. Like, what the hell are they doing there? And they saw the nurse. They watched her do that. So I'm wondering if they'll even ever have the pie. Like they're because of the woman, the two women that were, I don't know, I thought they legitimately got out of jail. So I guess there's a question
No,
about
they
that.
escaped, Sophie.
Well,
They
so
showed that.
they might be there to pick
They
them up
talked about it.
because her sister is the mortician's wife, and so they stopped
Well,
one of the women.
I would say too. Overall, I changed my mind. I do think that this is better than Ratched. I think that Ratched was just revolting. And I mean, I explained to Sophie the plot of Ratched, and Sophie said it was stupid. And so, I do change my mind. I would rank this over Ratched so far,
Well, whatever. I can't really say. I only saw about 5 minutes of it.
especially with all that real life propaganda they put on the Ratched.
Well, anyway, I've only seen like 5 minutes of it. I can't speak to that, but so I'm wondering if they're there to pick up those women or what, because it is Thanksgiving dinner, so I don't know, were they there at the Thanksgiving dinner? I don't know. Probably, I would think.
Well, if they know that she's related to that family, then obviously the police would come over at
Yeah.
some point.
They would, but I don't think they'd come like that.
Yeah,
They would
they
come only if they knew
kicked
that
in the
everybody was
door.
there.
Yeah.
So we'll see what happens with that. That's actually something to look forward to.
I don't really care about that, to be honest.
I'm just curious because why that is a little girl. That's not some old, they've had this happen in real life where they've had some health practitioner in a hospital off some patient who they think, well, they're suffering, they need to go now. And, they're really a serial killer.
I think it'd also be
Got in
real.
trouble.
It's too bad. It could have been funny if like they had already eaten the pie, and then the police come in and maybe they only ate half the slice, and so they'll be fine. But then they start puking all over the police, like every one of them.
Well, it could be that that's what's going to happen. They're going to come in there, find they're all sick.
They didn't have enough time to eat any pie though.
Well, we didn't see them open the door to them yet, right?
They didn't have enough time.
Yeah, that's true. And we
But-
don't even know if he was going to eat it for sure.
That would have been kind of funny. I don't know.
Well, we'll
but-
see what happens.
It would have fit in with this overall comedic parody of a season.
Okay.
So that's it. What should people do?
People need to, I hope, like and subscribe. We
And if-
would really appreciate it.
And if you dislike, that's great too, because disliking counts as positive engagement on YouTube.
Right.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, bye, everybody.
Bye.